Thousands of protesters in the nation's capital today calling for a ceasefire in Gaza and denouncing Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu as he addressed Congress today. The war has led to deep political divisions, and many lawmakers, including some from here on the West Coast, boycotted Netanyahu's. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to West Coast Wrap. I'm Alex Savage. We begin our coverage tonight with KTVU's Janet Katsuyama, who explains why Netanyahu faced significant pushback to his speech.
In a fiery and divisive speech on Capitol Hill, Israel Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu thanked Congress and the president.
On behalf of the people of Israel, I came here today to say thank you, America.
Netanyahu reminded Congress of the horrors of the October 7th massacre by Hamas and recognized 4 Israeli soldiers as well as families of hostages held by Hamas.
I want to thank President Biden for his tireless efforts on behalf of the hostages and for his efforts to the hostage families as well.
But some Democrats went silent when Netanyahu vehemently denied shortages of humanitarian aid to Gaza, minimized the number of civilian Palestinian deaths, and launched a scathing attack on anti-war protesters, saying they are on the side of evil.
You have officially become Iran's useful idiots.
Not another nickel, not another dime. Not another nickel, not another dime.
Thousands of protesters from around the nation, including some from the Bay Area, said Netanyahu's visit was shameful as they blocked streets around the Capitol.
It's people of all faiths, all backgrounds. I'm a Christian Palestinian. Christian Palestinians are currently facing extinction in Gaza.
Protesters say Netanyahu has mishandled the war and allowed an estimated 39,000 civilian Palestinian deaths, including women and children.
To be speaking in front of Congress in a way that elevates his status despite the fact that he's an internationally recognized war criminal that's now responsible for tens and tens of thousands of needless deaths.
Netanyahu met with opposition inside the Capitol, too, some showing signs of protest. More than 50 members of Congress did not attend the speech. Former Speaker Nancy Pelosi issued a blistering response saying Benjamin Netanyahu's presentation in the House chamber was by far the worst presentation of any foreign dignitary. She added that instead she met with families of the hostages and said they are asking for a ceasefire. Netanyahu is scheduled to meet with President Biden and Vice President Harris on Thursday and then go to Florida to meet with former President Trump on Friday. In the newsroom, Janet Katsuyama, KTVU, Fox 2 News.
And for more perspective on today's speech, we spoke earlier with Professor Stephen Zunez from the University of San Francisco. He says Netanyahu's address was directed toward the United States, of course, but also to the people of Israel.
Israelis have been demanding that he agree to a ceasefire, that he have new elections, and didn't like the fact that Congress was giving him this political boost by giving him the honor of speaking before a joint session of Congress.
And as we mentioned, many members of Congress were not present for the Prime Minister's speech today. Many publicly announced plans to boycott or to not attend. That includes a number of prominent Democrats from the West Coast. Former House Speaker Nancy Pelosi skipped the speech today, along with California Representatives Ro Khanna and Barbara Lee. And Senate President Pro Tem Patty Murray from Washington State chose not to attend. Earlier tonight, President Biden addressed the nation for the first time since deciding to end his re-election bid. The president spoke from the Oval Office, telling Americans the best way forward, in his view, is to pass the torch.
I've decided the best way forward is to pass the torch to a new generation. That's the best way to unite our nation. You know, there is a time and a place for long years of experience in public life. There's also a time and a place for new voices, fresh voices, yes, younger voices. And that time and place is now.
The president went on to explain what the next 6 months of his term will look like. The 81-year-old says he plans to be fully engaged and get as much done as he can in that time period, both here in the U.S. and abroad. The president told the story of his legacy as he nears the finish line of a political career that has spanned over 50 years. Vice President Kamala Harris arrived in Houston, Texas just a few hours ago as she continues campaigning. The vice president is set to give a keynote speech tomorrow at the American Federation of Teachers National Convention. Support for Harris is growing since President Biden announced he's stepping aside in the race. The American Federation of Teachers, one of the nation's largest labor unions for teachers, voted to endorse Harris. and Texas's Democratic delegates voted overwhelmingly to support her as the presidential nominee. Her arrival comes just after Harris spoke in Indianapolis at the Zeta Phi Beta sorority earlier today. The vice president is expected to meet with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu coming up tomorrow. Democrats in Arizona are also backing the vice president.
Arizona Democratic delegates have unanimously backed Kamala Harris as nominee, and over 60 elected officials in Arizona across all levels of government are supporting Kamala Harris to defeat Donald Trump.
The state's Democratic Party made that pick today, supporting Vice President Harris in the presidential race as the presumptive nominee. Arizona, of course, a key battleground state, and the state's delegates highlighted Kamala Harris's vision for the country and emphasized how the Democratic Party is now up against the clock with 90 days left to go to certify a presidential candidate. In the meantime, former President Trump was back on the campaign trail today for the first time since President Biden left the race. He held a rally in Charlotte, North Carolina, just his second event since the assassination attempt nearly 2 weeks ago. Trump won the battleground state in 2016 and 2020, and his advisors say a third win in North Carolina is crucial. A plane crash in Northern California killed 2 people who were contractors for California's firefighting agency. This happened yesterday in Humboldt County near Neyland Airport. The single-engine plane took off from Sacramento's McClellan Airport, and CAL FIRE confirmed the 2 people on board were contractors who fly aircraft for the agency. Authorities tonight are just trying to figure out exactly why that plane went down.
We just responded to the incident. The investigation is still ongoing with CAL FIRE and law enforcement personnel, and that's all we can share at this time.
That crash sparked a small grass fire, which was quickly put out. The FAA and the NTSB are now involved in this investigation. So far, the identities of the 2 people killed in the crash have not been made public. In the Bay Area, police tonight are investigating a video that shows a youth basketball player stomping on an opposing player's head. And we have a warning here. These images we're about to show you are disturbing. This all happened Sunday at the College of Alameda during a game between 2 AAU teams, Tumac Bow United and Peyton's Place. In the video, a player from Tumac Bow United is seen falling to the ground, trying to hold on to possession of the ball when a player from Peyton's Place stomps him in the head. Alameda police now investigating. They say both the players involved are 13 years old. On social media, Peyton's Place posted a statement saying, "Unfortunately, the footage is not a positive representation of our team and our values. The behavior exhibited by our player is not acceptable and is being taken seriously. We do not condone violence." Peyton's Place also says the player involved is no longer with the team. A live look now at Levi Stadium in Santa Clara, California, where 2 big soccer clubs from the UK are getting ready to face off in a friendly exhibition match. One of the top football franchises, Chelsea FC, will be taking on Wrexham AFC. And KTVU's Jesse Gary is joining us live tonight from outside of the stadium. Jesse, how are the fans feeling ahead of this match?
Oh, Mike, they are so happy to have both of these 2 teams here in the South Bay. 2 European teams, European friendly, let's call it that. Inside Levi Stadium behind me, you can see that the parking lot has filled in. We're just getting the last few cars as people are arriving a little bit late for kickoff. Kickoff's already happened, but fans are just starting to arrive now. And before walking in, many of them walk through the Fan Fest, which is set up on the west side of Levi Stadium. A red wave sweeping across a sea of blue football fans inside the Fan Fest. Doors opened at 5 o'clock and they closed just a few minutes ago. There are a half dozen vendors selling merch and other items geared towards the fan base of both teams. Many Wrexham fans say the 2-year-old Fox television sports documentary, Welcome to Wrexham, sparked their interest in this, until recently, largely unknown third-level team in Wales, England.
Realistically, it was because I love Ryan Reynolds, and if he was going to give it a try, why wouldn't I? And I love soccer or football.
If you're a sports fan, the way the show is geared, it's sports driven. Yeah, of course you have celebrities in it and they make it funny, but it's like any documentary about a team of any sport. If you like sports, you're going to get into it.
The pull of international soccer so powerful bringing fans here from around the Bay and around the country. One Chicago couple planned their summer vacation around tonight's match.
So we saw that there was going to be a game, and so we're like, let's plan a vacation around it. So we flew out to San Francisco and we drove down here just for the game.
And it seems like the Wrexham fans are carrying the day. They have a little bit more strength, but still a great crowd for either team, either Wrexham or Chelsea. A lot of red, a lot of blue, and all hoping to see a great match and maybe even Ryan Reynolds show up somewhere in the stands. We are live outside Levi Stadium here in Santa Clara. Jesse, Gary, KTVU, Fox 2 News. Alex, back up to you in Oakland.
That sounds good. Yeah, that would certainly be a lot of fun if they saw Ryan. Looks like a fun crowd. Should be a great match tonight. Jesse, thank you. And that match, by the way, set to start shortly here in Santa Clara. Coming up tonight, Washington's ferry system struggling through a shortage of vessels and workers. The increasing frustration over workers getting caught in the verbal crossfire. Plus, crews are fighting a number of wildfires across the West, including many of them in Oregon. We'll tell you about the efforts tonight to try to gain control of the largest wildfire in this country.
And in weather, here's our live camera in the San Francisco Bay Area. A bit of a warm-up across parts of the West Coast over the past few days, but some changes in the forecast beginning tomorrow. We will have the update coming up.
In Washington, the state's ferry system has been rocked by a shortage of boats recently. As Fox 13's Lauren Donovan reports tonight, things are getting so bad that officials are asking passengers not to take out their anger on ferry employees.
Why didn't I get on that boat? Why is the boat late? When's the next boat?
Passenger seller Shane Gilbertson's worked here the past 6 years. He's heard it all.
A lot of people don't understand how we load the dock, or they always think that we're favoring a certain destination when we're not.
Shane shared living across the water in Port Orchard.
I take the boats twice. I take a boat in the morning. I take a boat during commuter hours every night at 4:35.
So he relies on the Southworth route too.
I understand people's frustration. They've been working all day. They want to get home. It's hot. They're tired. They feel like they've been cut.
Last week, the head of the state ferry system sent out a memo apologizing to those with customer-facing jobs for the, quote, abuse they've endured.
I think more people that work here are bringing it to the attention more, and they're letting the supervisors know.
All three workers I spoke with say not everyone's having a meltdown at the toll booth, but these blowups have repercussions. Staffing shortages across the system persist.
We can bring people into the terminals, but of course, if they're getting all this verbal abuse, if the job is tough, retention, turns into an issue.
People are getting frustrated. They're used to 3 boats for a long time, and we're with the staffing issues. Sometimes we'll go down to 1.
I think the traveling demand is back to pre-COVID, but our schedule is still set up like we're during COVID.
And that was Fox 13's Lauren Donovan reporting for us tonight. More than 30 wildfires are burning across Oregon tonight, including the largest fire in the country right now. That would be the Durkee Fire in Malheur County. It's charred about 244,000 acres, and crews at this point have no containment on the fire. Over 600 firefighters are working on this fire that was caused by lightning back on July 17th. Several evacuation warnings remain in place, and part of Interstate 84 closed today between Pendleton and Ontario because of the fire's unpredictable nature. In Central Oregon, evacuation orders remain in place near the microwave tower fire. This has burned more than 700 acres near the town of Mosier in Wasco County. The fire started Monday afternoon and crews have no containment. Authorities say utility crews have been able to restore power to some people who lost it near the fire. And southeast of there, crews are now battling what's being called a mega fire. The Lone Rock Fire has burned nearly 135,000 acres near the town of Condon. Evacuation orders are in effect for this fire that started about a week and a half ago. Crews do have about 40% containment on that fire tonight. In Southern California, baby goats are doing their part to help prevent wildfires. Goats in San Bernardino are being used by the San Manuel Band of Mission Indians to help clear out brush that potentially could spark a fire. The tribe treated those 400 goats to some special treats. The plan is to have them graze more than 1,000 acres. Earlier this year, crews say they were able to get control of a wildfire as those flames reached an area that was previously cleared by the goats.
About 2 weeks ago, there was a fire in the foothill community of San Bernardino, and because we used the goats to treat some of the land, the goats had just recently worked an area, and there was a small fire about 3 acres in size. It stayed about 3 acres because of the work that the goats did and the firefighters did.
Those goats work from March until August. Reservation officials say instead of using mowers and heavy equipment, they prefer the goats do the brush clearance so San Manuel can be better stewards of the land. All right, let's talk about our weather across the West, and we are still seeing some extreme heat in many places. Mark Tamayo, though, tracking a bit of a cool down coming for the rest of the week. Mark?
Hi there, Alex. Yeah, still talking about some heat so far this week, and yeah, we are expecting a bit of a cool down across parts of the West, but of course, you talked about all the wildfire activity and also the smoke as well. So as you can see, the smoke concentrations generally moving from west to the east. You can see really focused up in the Pacific Northwest with those wildfires. As a lot of this is linked up to the heat as well. As you can see, the areas in red, heat warnings, the areas in yellow, heat advisories. So it has been a hot stretch, and taking a look still. The constant has been in Arizona, 114 today, in Phoenix. Fresno, 109 degrees, Redding, 108, and up in Portland, Oregon, temperature actually not nearly as hot, but still warm in the lower 80s at 83 degrees. This was a scene in Seattle today, picking up on some high cloud cover, a temperature of 77 degrees. And then in the San Francisco Bay Area, San Francisco in the 70s, but a few miles inland, temperatures topping 100 degrees once again, and heat advisories in effect. And then down in Southern California, Los Angeles in the upper 80s this afternoon, a bit of some haze in their sky as well this afternoon. Current numbers, it is 110 degrees right now in Las Vegas, San Francisco 68, mid-70s in Portland, and 71 degrees up in Seattle. We'll take a look at the satellite and the radar because we still have some thunderstorms to talk about, as you can see, across parts of Colorado, portions of Arizona, and then up in the Pacific Northwest, we have some showers moving out of eastern Oregon, as you can see, and it's kind of linked up with some instability here with this area of low pressure that could send in a few extra clouds overnight tonight into tomorrow morning. So here is the plan for your Thursday. Clearing skies up in Seattle. A warm day for the San Francisco Bay Area. San Francisco close to 70 degrees, but we begin to cool things off, at least compared to the recent heat stretch we have been dealing with. Still warm to hot in Arizona. It could be hot and smoky in the Denver area for tomorrow. In terms of the shower coverage for your Thursday, as you can see into the afternoon hours, things begin to blossom in terms of shower chances in portions of Arizona and also Utah, out toward Colorado, and of course out toward Nevada. The Sierra Nevada picking up some showers and thunderstorms once again for today. Here's the game plan for tomorrow. As you can see, some 70s and 80s up in portions of Washington. Concord in the Bay Area, mid-90s. Tucson, Arizona, 105 degrees, and down in Southern California, 105 to 106 degrees. Some of those interior locations. Here is the forecast over the next 3 days, and as you can see, lots of 80s for Los Angeles. San Francisco cooling off back down into the low to mid 60s. Bunch of 70s up north, and of course the heat. This is the constant in our forecast in Phoenix, close to 110 degrees over the next several days. Alex.
Yeah, staying hot in the desert there. Mark, thank you. The California State Fair is setting high expectations with a new attraction this year. The fair in Sacramento is making history as the first fair in the country to allow cannabis to be sold and used on site. Visitors over the age of 21 can enter the fair's cannabis experience to buy products from dispensaries and use them in designated areas. 2 years ago, the fair opened a cannabis exhibit and awards competition, but visitors couldn't buy or consume it. Event organizers say this is a big step in recognizing cannabis farmers and removing the stigma that still surrounds cannabis.
This is our seat at the big agricultural table. You know, we're joining wine, cheese, olive oil, craft beer with a coveted competition.
And the event is also giving away 9 Golden Bear Awards, as well as more than 100 silver and gold medals to competitors with the best yields. The California State Fair runs through Sunday at the Cal Expo in Sacramento. Coming up tonight on West Coast Wrap, for the first time in 32 years, Salt Lake City will host the Winter Olympics. Officials lit the official cauldron to signify the announcement. Plus, running an ultramarathon in the dead of summer. We'll hear from some of the brave runners who endured Death Valley's record-setting temperatures. Well, it's never too early to celebrate. Today, the International Olympic Committee announced Salt Lake City, Utah will host the Winter Games in 2034. The Olympic cauldron on the University of Utah campus was lit early this morning. The 72-foot tall glass cauldron is the same one that was lit up for 16 days and nights during the 2002 Olympic Games, the last time Salt Lake City hosted the Olympics. While Utah is celebrating what's to come in the future, the Summer Games in Paris are underway right now, but not without a few mishaps when it comes to preparation for the event. Fox's Nate Foy has more tonight from London.
The Summer Olympics in Paris are now underway. The first event started Wednesday with rugby and soccer ahead of a lavish opening ceremony set for Friday. But behind the scenes, French police are working hard to keep the games safe. On Wednesday, they announced they've disrupted several plots related to the Olympics, including one by a Russian man arrested in Paris, allegedly trying to, quote, destabilize the games.
The entire national police force has been mobilized during the Olympic Games. The police force will have no vacation this summer in order to guarantee everyone's safety.
Also high on the agenda is keeping athletes healthy as COVID surges in Europe and across the world. Australia announced 5 members of its water polo team tested positive, but so far the outbreak appears to be contained.
We have our respiratory illnesses protocol in place, and we have reinforced this with all of the teams as they arrive into our village.
Meanwhile, Olympic fans back home are celebrating the Games' return to the United States. Salt Lake City will host the 2034 Winter Olympics, bringing the Games back to Utah for the first time in 3 decades, with city leaders saying they'll make America proud.
We will present the world a new version of Salt Lake City and Utah because that's naturally who we're becoming. More sustainable, more welcoming.
The budget for the Salt Lake City Games will be $4 billion. The organizing committee says it will be 100% privately funded. In London, Nate Foy, Fox News.
Finally, tonight we take you to California's Death Valley, where right now nearly 100 runners are in the middle of a grueling 48-hour ultramarathon known as the world's toughest foot race. The 135-mile race takes place in mid-July as temperatures are soaring. Participants start 282 feet below sea level at the lowest point in North America. The finish line is 8,300 feet high at Mount Whitney, the highest point in the contiguous United States. No runner has ever died during this race, but a few have been sent to the hospital.
Suffering. I mean, I think that's the best way I can put it. I mean, at some point, you just have to sort of embrace the suffering. I always joke that with my friends, what did it feel like? And I say the suffering was absolutely sublime.
For me, it's all about seeing what I can do, testing my own limits, seeing how well I can do these extreme things, and just pushing myself to see what my body can physically do.
This race limited to runners who've taken part in ultramarathons of at least 100 miles before. Competitors come from across the country and the world. An incredible accomplishment. I wish them the best of luck. Have a great night.